Welcome, everyone. I'm Kelly DuMar, and I'm here to host and produce the Journal of Expressive Writing open mic tonight, coming to you from Massachusetts with Jen, the founder and editor of the Journal of Expressive Writing. I'm so honored to collaborate with her on hosting this event, this first authors panel of a number of longtime members or contributors to the Journal of Expressive Writing, big supporters who also have books. We really wanted to know more about their books. They're going to read to you tonight. They're going to be able to introduce you to their books. And then we're going to have a little bit of a discussion. And then we're going to have the open mic where we're featuring up to 6 pre-registered writers who signed up in advance. We do have a wait list, but we'll see. We usually are able to get everybody on our wait list who's in, and that is posted in the chat room if any of you are having any questions about seeing that. Jen, maybe you'll repost it again because I think we've been doing, thank you. And Jen, would you like to say hello to everyone?
I would love to say hello. Hi, everybody. It's so good to see you. Happy end of summer. I'm so thrilled to be collaborating with all of the panel writers. It's an exciting new format for Kelly and I. And so I just want to say how thrilled I am to have Birdman 313 here, John Swainston, David Bookbinder, Nico Reed, Richard Krause, and Brian Beeswax. I hope I said that right, but I might not have. And Dee Allen, unfortunately, couldn't join us just at the last minute. He is engaged in anti-poverty work, so that is keeping him from us tonight. So I can't think of a better reason for for not being here. But I want to thank everybody for being here, and I look forward to hearing from everybody tonight.
Thank you, Jen. Thanks for all the background organization that you've done to help us get this event going tonight. And, I really want to welcome in particular friends, family, colleagues of our featured panelists tonight. You may be new to coming to one of our events, and we want to extend a very warm welcome and our appreciation for you coming to be here with us for this special event tonight. Chat room's open. Please feel free to make positive, supportive comments about how you identify with the writer who's reading, or ask a question if you want to know more. So use the chat room for conversation with all of us so that we can really feel like we're connecting and that we're all in the room together. So the first thing that I like to do to open our events is just share a little bit of something that really speaks to me that I think will speak to the energy that we thrive on in this community of getting together to share poetry and nonfiction and memoir and journal writing and all kinds of expressive writing in this group. So I thought tonight I would share a piece of a quote by the cellist Yo-Yo Ma about beauty. He says, I can't say the word beauty without also equating it with the word transcendence, because it seems like there are so many different things that are beautiful to so many different people. But I think beauty is often an encapsulation of a lot of different things in a certain moment, a frame, let's say. It could be music. It could be a poem. It could be an event. It could be in nature, and often, possibly most often in nature. But when that encapsulated form is received, there's a moment of reception and cognition of the thing that is in some ways startling. So even if you think nature is inanimate and therefore, but the beauty of nature, it's the human cognition of that vastness, the awe and the wonder, something that's in a way bigger than yourself. So I think we're going to be framing some of the kind of beauty that Yo-Yo Ma talks about tonight. Feel free to notice it with us in the chat room. I'm going to introduce our first author of the evening. Birdman 313 is originally from Benton Harbor, Michigan, and a graduate of John Wesley College with a BA in social science, an AA in networking admin from ITT Tech, and a computer tech certificate from JTI. Birdman 313 has been writing poetry for the past 40 years. He has 11 published poetry books and 4 published poetry chapbooks, and has been published in several journals and newspapers. He has been several Editors of Choice Awards and 1 international award for his poetry. He's been a guest on several blog talk shows, Zoom and Skype open mic readings. He was presented a plaque for the poem She, along with a gold medallion and a pennant. His video, Forgotten Time, won first place in the Light Poetic Ministry Poetry Video Contest. His poems and video, 1,000 Miles from Nowhere, Moments in a Dream, A Day in the Forests, and The Waves of Emotion were featured on Coffee, Wine, and Words on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, and Anchor. Welcome, Birdman 313.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. This is the book. I hope you can see it. Ooh. This is the cover of my book that I'm going to be reading 3 poems out of. And I write a lot of nature poems.
Birdman,
I know Lynn.
Birdman, hold that up one more time. Hold it up one more time, really steadily. We didn't. Okay, now pull it back a tiny bit. I think what's happening is that we're not able to see the cover because I think you have your background. You have a background on, and it's
No,
just
I don't. I took it off.
weird. Oh my gosh. Well, it's not coming through for us. So, all right. I'm sorry we can't see it. There may be a way you could upload an image for us into the chat room. Sorry to interrupt. Start your 5 minutes now.
That's all right. No, I know Lenny. Lenny's heard many of my poems. And this first one is titled Forest. I got the inspiration from Muir Woods up in Northern California. If you haven't been there, you should go there. It's very beautiful. It's a short piece and it's titled Forest. While walking through a dense forest, we hear the crackling of the twigs and leaves that had fallen on the ground. Along the trail of this peaceful forest, a fog appears to be rolling in. Here in the forest, the air is crisp. As the wind is so intimate with the trees, leaves again begin to fall. The pines and birches have settled on a path that leads through the forest. A subtle fragrance of pine fills the air as the sun peeks through portions of the branches and leaves. 1,000 sweet enchantments scatter our thoughts, wandering deeper into the forest to gather our dreams that have surfaced. Feeling the deep spirit that sends a fragrance of green and spicy cedar as the wind blows. We cross stumps, harsh rocks, and bridges that have running streams underneath. The scent of the forest continues through our stroll while we enjoy the quietness. A few wild animals, birds feel safe as this is their home. This is where we can hold a small, calm communion of solitude. And my next one, which it's a video to that one and this one here. The video was from Santa Monica in California, and it's titled An Ocean Breeze. Out from the sea, an ocean breeze blows against the banks. Freedom is felt as it travels along the coastline, releasing its power. Once it reaches the shoreline, you will be able to feel its warmth within your soul. This is my home away from home, as I stand here to reset my mind. It's such a perfect day for finding peace. It seems like the summers are getting shorter with less time to enjoy days like this. Enjoying the breeze and waves, I can stay here forever. Watching the blue ocean and the watercolor sunsets. What an end to a perfect day. The ocean breeze upon my face restores my vitality. The ocean is both wild and calm, dangerous and beautiful. It holds many stories, fairy tales, and dreams within its timeless sea breezes, sea winds of the night. And my last one is titled The Air We Breathe. And I wrote this after going through gardens, um, forests, and the beach. Looking out of the window as the sun is rising in the east, a shadow is cast throughout the valley of solitude. The air is clear and pure on a bright and early summer morning. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in the air of all the warriors of yesterday past, before the smog from factories and vehicles begin polluting the air. Take a walk, feeling the mist and enjoying the smell of the roses and fresh cut grass. Breathe in, breathe out. Take in a long breath while in the garden. Feel the air flowing down your throat, swirling in your lungs and coming back out. Clear your mind of all thoughts, letting it flow into an endless nothingness. Close your eyes and listen as your heart beats. Whisper to me the bravery that nature has to offer. We are dependent on the air we breathe, even as man is destroying it with chemicals. Enjoying the scenery while walking along twisting paths and watching the birds fly around, playing tag without worries. Noticing how nature works just by being alert to the quietness. The air is full of dreams, particles, and all that God has for them. Imagination to focus upon. Looking up as the sun starts to beam its heat directly overhead. The sky is bright blue with only a few clouds. Breathe in, breathe out as long as we can. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Birdman. Got some hands raised in applause, and I'm sure there's some comments in the chat room. So please have a look at those. And thank you so much for your reading. John Swainston, you are up. John Swainston started writing poetry to cope with feelings of isolation during COVID. He learned the craft by taking Zoom classes in poetry and writing at Turning Point, a support organization for individuals with serious health issues. He's a member of the Mystic Poet Society, the Writers' Place, and the Kansas City Writers Group. He's also an alumnus of Writers' Colony at Derry Hollow. He has had several poems published. His first was in the Journal of Expressive Writing, and a poem which appeared in Veterans Voices received the Editor's Choice Award. His first book of poems was self-published spring 2022. John is a retired finance executive, college adjunct professor, and Army veteran. Welcome, John. We're looking forward to hearing from you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I thought because you mentioned that my first poem was put in the Journal of Expressive Writing, I would read it. But I just wanted to let you all know I'm from Gardner, Kansas, which is a very small suburb south of Kansas City. And it's actually cooled down today. It's only 99, 117 if you include the humidity. And tomorrow is supposed to be 120 if you include the humidity, but we're cooling off. This poem is titled Christmas, 1952. It was Christmas Eve. I would be 8 in 5 days. Up early to see what was under the tree. Nothing. Not a single thing. Not even a birthday present. Mom made the two one less expensive. Never understood that logic. Mom shouted, breakfast. We ate. I tried not to cry. Eggs, spam, toast. Ugh. Dr. Seuss was totally wrong. I do not like eggs and spam. Mom, not eating the spam. Johnny, that's my you're in trouble name. Yes, you will. I did. Dad shouted, get dressed. We have to go feed the horses. Walking toward the barn, there were 3 stalls and runs, 2 with horses and 1 empty. It was not empty. There he was with a very large red bow around his neck. Mom had snuck up behind me. "That's Charlie. Merry Christmas and happy birthday, son." Dad just grinned. I was the proud owner of my very own Charlie horse. I got a lot of fun with that during the years. Next, I have, as you heard in Turning Point, been dealing with some health issues. The major one at this point is pain in the lower back. So the title of this poem is Pain, My Pain. Soaking in my misery, I hurt. It is not the pain that I mind, but what it does. It dulls the mind, wants to be the center of attention. To understand pain, you must feel pain. There are medications that pause or blunt the pain, but it will not go away. It comes back another day. Don't come back another day. You are a real bother. Take a pill. No 2, no more. That dulls the mind even more. I need a Japanese kansuki artist with an MD. I understand I'm not pottery, but maybe he can put me back together. Okay. This is, by the way, out of my book, which is here. This is called The Memory Box. It goes through the 4 stages of my life, youth to where I am now, older. The life I wanted. The overture was done. I stood in the wings waiting for the curtain to lift. As it did, Gilda stepped forward to center stage. She was stunning. Her voice began to awaken. You could hear her in the last row of the balcony. Could I do this? My cue. It was now my moment. I stride on the stage, strutting like a rooster in heat. Chest pushed out, staring into her eyes, I responded. My baritone voice also reached the balcony. Rigoletto was my name. In my dream, I am the lead of this Verdi opera. And yes, I wanted to be an opera singer. My grandfather introduced me to opera. If you want to know a little bit about my grandfather and introducing me to opera, he was in 3 wars. The last, he was a mercenary for Pancho Villa. And he sailed the seas on square riggers and loved to swear. That's where I learned all my first swear words, from my grandfather. And he loved opera. Go figure. And that's it. I thank you very much.
Thank you so much, John.
You're welcome.
Lots of applause. Thank you for that reading. Okay, I'm going to introduce now our next reader, David J. Bookbinder. David is a writer, photographer, and life coach. He's the author of Street People Portfolio, The Art of Balance, Paths to Wholeness, What Folk Music is All About, 2 coloring books for adults, and 3 books about computer software. David has received artist grants from the Massachusetts Cultural Council, teaching fellowships from Boston University and the University at Albany, and residencies at the Malay Colony for the Arts and the Virginia Center for the Creative Arts. He recently retired from a long career as a psychotherapist and lives and writes north of Boston. And he will put his website in the chat room. Welcome, David.
Thank you. So I'm going to be reading from this book, Street People. It's based on interviews with and photographs I took of people met on the streets of New York City, in Manhattan and Brooklyn from 1974 to 79. I started the book in 1975. I finished it last year. And so I'm reading from a story called Morris Kavish, Newsstand Man. He was the newsstand man around the corner from me at 98th Street and Broadway. And he would set up his newsstand every morning. He stored everything in a shul. And he brought it out and set it up and then took it all down and put it back in the shul every night. All my past, I am happy, because if I wouldn't run away from Russia, I would remain Russia, my mother would remain Russia, and whole family would be killed by Hitler in 1942. I wouldn't be here alive today. This way, I came to Mexico, I brought my family here, all come here. It's like you have a choice of two things. You don't know which is what. Who knows? You don't know your future. Good thing I took right choice. Even when I was in Mexico, I married my wife, I took a chance. I say, I have to marry a woman, I don't like it? Who forces me? I was 26 years of age. But I took that choice and I married my wife, and happened to be I got a good choice. You know, happened to be. Otherwise, I would be still in Mexico. Every Jew who comes from Europe, they have their own life story. I have good story because I came before this whole trouble started and I was lucky. So I have Thanksgiving Day today and every day. And besides, I make a living here in America. And besides, I have everything to be thankful for, and I know that, and I'm happy. Thanksgiving Day, holiday, it's really holiday to me. I'm just thanking everything that happened to me and my family. I mean, of course, I lost my wife and I lost my mother, you know what I mean? But we all have to go sooner or later. I have a good spirit. You know why? I have everything to be happy. When the people tell me, Morris, but you work every day in cold weather, I say, no matter is that. I'm still the most happy man in the world. It's not what you have, it's what you're feeling. I'm happy because I reach all my age, 73, and hope to live much longer. Happy because I have a young heart. I'm 73 years young. You'll be 73 too. Happy because I'm healthy, never sick. I don't know about doctors. I don't know about hospitals. Happy I have my family. I have good children. My 2 sons got good education, and they're very well off. I have nice grandchildren. They're good students. Why shouldn't I be happy? Why shouldn't I be happy? Happy because I'm not a roomer. I got my own apartment. And of course, because it's my rent control too. Happy because I'm my own boss and not work too hard. And I see people and enjoy, and besides, I make a live dollar. Happy because I have my newsstand right 1 block from where I live, and I don't have to travel in subway. Happy because I don't have to ask for a dime in the street. I don't depend on nobody, not my children either. So what else you want? What you want me, to have a golden egg to eat? Happy I'm in America too. I'm in a country that I don't have to be like in Russia. You know what I mean? They say you're a damn Jew. They don't let me go in schooling. In America, I am a free man, right? So far, I was fortunate in every way. Fortunate I left Russia. Fortunate I married my wife. I came to America. Fortunate I had my 2 nice boys. And fortunate I had my children before I was too old, because it's nice to have children when the parents are young, right? You don't want to have a child when you're 70 years old. I say, why should I not be happy? Happy in every way. What else you want? To live on Fifth Avenue and have a Rolls Royce? Of course, I could go higher and go to the moon too. Why not? Why not? How many days do I work in a week? I work 8 days. Because Saturday I work during the day and I come back at night. But even 7 days. Who works 7 days? Not too many. Do I have a day off? Do you see my stand clothes here? No. And despite of everything, I'm the happiest man in the world. I don't envy you that you work 5 days. I work 8 days or 7 days and I'm happy because I don't know any better. That's how it is, and you can't take away that happiness from me. I hope that will continue until the end of my life. Now, I'm hungry and I got good appetite, and I'm going to eat my sandwich without any worry whether the rain got wet my papers or not. To hell with the papers. I make my day working and I don't care about, right? You know why I'm happy? I'm happy the way I am because I know other people are worse than I, and some people are better than I, but I don't look who's better from me. I look on my life different way. I look at those people who are worse than me. You know, it could be better, but it could be worse. It's easier to get worse than better, right? So in spite of everything, I'm the most happy man. I am like the worm that got into apple. The worm come into apple, sleeps there, eats there. He doesn't give a care. I'm the worm, and this is my apple here on Broadway.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, David, thank you. Wonderful. Lots of comments in the chat room. All right, I am going to next introduce Miko Reed. So let me just give you your spot. There you are. Wonderful. Welcome, Miko. Miko Reed is a native Washingtonian, retired Army vet, and has been writing poetry for over 20 years. She completed her Executive Master's in Leadership from Georgetown University in 2019, started her company Have a Voice, LLC, to showcase other poets in 2020, and became an Amazon bestseller for her book Eggshells in Soft Black Hands in August 2021. She has also had her poetry published in an international anthology, Now That You Are Gone from This World, and in the Journal of Expressive Writing, both in 2022. Not only is Miko a poet, she also writes short stories and has recently been published in an online blog, Sad Girls Club. She also completed her second book, a novelette of fiction titled Pandemic Suburban Women, in the fall of 2022. Miko is a public speaker, a curator, and host of 3 open mics throughout the DMV. She's working on her third book of poetry and prose titled Pain and Prosecco, slated for completion late August 2023. She's in her 3rd year at Johns Hopkins University, pursuing a second graduate degree, a Master of Arts in Writing. Miko is a mom of 2 beautiful kids, Madison and Mason, and they all live in Bowie, Maryland. Welcome, Miko.
Thank you. Hi. Okay, this is the book, Eggshells and Soft Black Hands. Okay, I'm going to read a poem and a snippet. This piece is called Daddy's Blues. I'm bleeding. Can't you see the stains? My daddy's blues are suffocating my veins. I try to refrain from this toxic strain of smoke, but these are my daddy's blues that's infiltrating my soul, that's got me spiraling down cancerous holes. I hold on to hope that one day these blues will stray, but they never do, you see. I'm a glass half full kind of girl. I gotta believe the hype. Society trite and daddy, he's out again, but ain't never gonna be right. I write this poetic prose for those who hold up their nose. The establishment is kind of old. I mean, how can a halfway house ever make my daddy whole? I'm choking. Can't you see my face turning blue and my daddy's blues are still sifting through? I had to be a superhero for my daddy since I was like 10. But now I'm tired of this play, make, pretend. I don't know. Maybe my daddy did what he did because he didn't have any ends, or perhaps he just got involved with the wrong group of friends. But all I know now is that the lawyers high Sadidian and judge's recommendation, incarceration, drug rehabilitation, and incarceration. As he pontificates, Miss Reed is for the good of mankind, the good of mankind, well, mankind. My daddy's getting old, and maybe one day he's gonna die living in a hole, but right now, I got my daddy's soul. Gotta be his mouthpiece, gotta step in his shoes, gonna put on my suit of armor and take on my daddy's blues. These are my daddy's blues. I write for every little girl that's ever cried herself to sleep at night. Black, yellow, and white. Eyes wide shut, souls wide awake, clutching their little chests, pondering their daddy's fate. Because here's a flash of news. Drug rehabilitation is not synonymous with incarceration, and those are my daddy's blues. These are my daddy's blues. Once I was lost. Growing up poor in one of the most underprivileged and essentially forgotten neighborhoods just blocks from the White House will render anyone geographically challenged, metaphorically and realistically speaking. And I'm not talking about what DC is now, guys, just blocks from the White House, where there are like rooftops and tapas bars and a commingling of cultures. I'm talking about the late 80s and the early 90s, where crack and heroin were rampant. Not the DC where large porcelain-esque pandas and elephants are currently chilling on corners, and yoga happens at random parks around the city. I'm talking about DC, Dodge City, where us Black girls rock Guess jeans and name earrings, where hip hop was becoming a true household name, and everyone wanted to be a rapper. Yes, including myself. I think I wanted to call myself Miko the Magnificent. The little charter buses would stop just shy of 10th Street by the Marine Corps barracks, and never knew what type of nefarious acts would go down on those 7th and G Street corners. And I'm pretty sure I didn't know exactly what would go down either, but I would always see the residual the following morning. The guardian angels, basically people in the community, wore orange, and they wanted to keep the projects, the gardens, safe for us kids. They would peruse the streets and pick up used drug needles and used condoms that once occupied a prostitute space. And they would place them in these big ass guardian angel bags. Again, guys, this definitely was not your field trip side of Washington, D.C. So as I near graduation from the Executive Master's Program at Georgetown University, my cohort was given an impromptu task. We were asked to picture ourselves 15 years from now accepting an award, and we had to write a speech about it. To find what that speech is, you have to go on Amazon and you have to get the book, and you'll see it at the end of the speech. But yeah, I just wanted to share snippets of some of the prose, personal essays that's in the book, along with the poetry that's in the book. So I hope you guys liked it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miko. Wow. All right, this is quite a dynamic panel we've assembled here. Thank you, all of you. And now we are going to go to, I'm going to introduce Brian Biswas. I hope I am, okay, there you are, Brian. I meant to replace the spotlight. Yeah, there we go. Okay, Brian, am I saying your name? Am I pronouncing it correctly? Biswas?
Biswas.
Biswas. Okay, Biswas. Sorry.
But that's fine.
All right. Well, I'm going to introduce you now. Brian Biswas has published over 60 short stories in the United States as well as internationally. His short story, A Betrayal, was nominated for a Pushcart Prize and anthologized in the Irreal Reader. A short story collection, A Betrayal and Other Stories, was published by Rogue Star Press in 2018. The Astronomer, a novel, was published by Whiskey Tit in 2023. Welcome, Brian.
Hey. Okay, so this is my novel, if you can see that, The Astronomer. This was published, my first novel, and it was published last May. So The Astronomer is about a young man, a down on his luck astronomer, who one day is diagnosed with epilepsy. When treatments fail, he's told he's going to have to use his mind to control it. He does this with some success. Then he realizes he's also gained the ability to travel throughout the cosmos at will, making scientific discoveries to his heart's content and reviving his reputation. When his wife realizes he's nuts and leaves him, he must decide whether to try and win her back or abandon himself to the cosmos. It's really a book about obsession and the difficulty of moving on after a traumatic event. Franz Herbert, he's the main character. He clings to his first love, the stars, as he tries to move on, but the loss of his wife keeps coming back to haunt him. The book itself is Franz's autobiography, which he's writing near the end of his life. So I'm just going to read the first page, wherein his disease descends upon him. When the doctor told me I had epilepsy, I was shocked. I'd suspected something might be wrong. I heard voices. I was other places. But never this most hideous of diseases. This could never happen to me. There was no history of epilepsy in my family. I'd never suffered from seizures or auras of any type. I was 20 years old. I had my entire life ahead of me. Maybe the doctor was mistaken. But alas, subsequent tests confirmed the original diagnosis. Petit mal seizures that would only worsen over time unless immediate action was taken. The doctor gave me pills that turned the walls of my bedroom many colors. They pulsated. They bled. One sultry August night, the year was 1926, the year Arthur Eddington published The Internal Constitution of the Stars, I clung to my girlfriend Isabella as I felt my mind beginning to swoon and then convulse. We were in the backyard of my parents' home in Peoria, Illinois, gazing up at the constellations, and suddenly the firmament came crashing down upon me, and I was drowning in light. Oh my God, I thought, you're going to die. An epileptic's life is no fun. For one thing, you never know where you are. You could be here, you could be there. And in reality, you're neither place, or rather you're in both places simultaneously. Twilight worlds that flash in and out of existence. I was passed from physician to physician. Nobody knew what to do with me. The diagnoses multiplied, the prescriptions multiplied, but my condition only worsened. Eventually, I ended up in a local hospital. I was filled with so many drugs, I didn't know who I was or who I'd ever been. A specialist from University Medical Center examined me, and to my amazement, he took me off all medication. There's nothing wrong with you, he said. It's all in your mind. I said, somewhat sarcastically, of course it's in my mind. But he was right. It was all in my mind. And when I realized this, I began to recover. I learned to control my epilepsy, and then I learned to control other things. And I'll stop there. That's the Twilight Zone moment.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Brian. Brian Biswas. All right, now we are going to have our final panelist of the evening, Richard Krause. And we're going to welcome Richard. And I'm going to read your bio.
Thank you.
Richard has 3 collections of fiction published titled Studies in Insignificance, The Horror of the Ordinary, and Crawl Space and Other Stories of Limited Maneuverability. He also has 3 collections of epigrams published, Optical Biases, Eye Exams, and Blind Insights into the Writing Process. His prose poetry collection, Unashamed Observations, is scheduled to be published by Unsolicited Press in June of 2024. Richard grew up in an orphanage in Pennsylvania, drove a taxi in NYC for 5 years, and lived for 9 years in Japan, 7 of them teaching English at Ibaraki University. Currently, he's retired from teaching at a community college in Kentucky. Welcome, Richard.
Thank you. I'll be reading from my collection, Blind Insights into the Writing process. It's composed of 30 prose poems and 300 epigrams. Poetry requires the patience not to pursue your meaning, letting it float free, letting words buoy you while you fish for rhyme, the tug and pull at your lines. But most poets, though anglers, stop with the catch. They never show the internal angling, the operculum torn free, the bleeding at the mouth, the evisceration from a line having been swallowed. They never show you the guts of the poem, what readers today never angle for. You thought that illegitimacy has a chance, but it's passed around, at first very carefully, swaddled, the same as any other child. No one knows the disease is spreading. The baby looks like any other. It's not. People start to avoid it as something contagious. First the father or mother, soon both. First one family member takes it, relations visit. After all, there is some acknowledgement. It's not legal, but there's blood. But blood thins, and soon the child is left with family after family. B was so attractive. What happened? Why didn't Breck stay with her? Only fathered her illegitimate child and fled. He kept coming back, but no. Finally, they both left him. At 16, to the German army. 8 years later, he was dead on the Russian front. Legitimately dead. A criticism of my writing, the greenhouse effect of it, the airlessness, how everything is controlled, the temperature, the amount of light, the moisture to grow, just what I want, but grown from life or experience, but so carefully monitored to give the impression of something other than that, something unusual and out of the ordinary, but with all the ingredients, like the square watermelon Japanese farmers grow. All the seeds are there, but the perception is different. People will nitpick your work, and that's okay if they're trying to improve some dropped stitch, if there's an error in design or craftsmanship, but not if they're trying to delouse it. That you won't stand for. That kind of lice discomfort in your writing is what gives it value, what makes people, even though they'd never admit it, itch for more. I remember he asked me if I didn't like people, unaware as he was that he was witnessing the birth of an intellectual life, which always begins with the refusal of people. They are replaced by ideas. Gradually, however, hands reach out through the ideas, then arms and legs, then a head or two, and soon whole people appear again. For some people, thinking is winking, no more than connivance. I want to be less of a psychologist than one who's able to trick people, and more of a psychologist than one who is tricked by them. Sometimes my mind becomes clearer when I'm tied or otherwise awkwardly bound because it is free of the coordination of my body. There's a difference between art as catharsis and trying to wash your dirty laundry in it. The latter is possible, but only by those whose motives are spotless. Talent is a great manipulator. It is the ultimate persuasion, the five-finger discount. It makes the rest of us all seem to be wearing mittens. His speech is so soft that you want to shake him, to somehow give bite to what he says. Get him to openly masticate the language, dribble, drool down the sides of his mouth, spit out the words, hiss his meaning, something that would bring out the snake in him and the mongoose in you. Beware of the mumbler who, just because of indistinct speech, says what everybody wants to hear. I keep my word, he said. That's your problem, I'd say. Your vocabulary is too limited. The most remarkable aspect of creation is not the universe, the sheer beauty of occupied space, nor is it the animal world or the simple existence of man, but it is, despite all his brutality, a simple act of kindness, absolutely unconcerned with its own interest. We want recognition. It is our protoplasmic revenge for 7 pounds of being born without an ounce of input. You can almost see the feeling in the very eye of the rhino, with the enormous head and giant horn. Its looks convey the question of how they got there and is answered only by the thickest neck that says, it doesn't matter now that I have to carry them. And the last one, the black and white anomaly of the orca makes you desperate in your own life to categorize the two colors into equal right and wrong. The orcas are a confusion until they kill another handler. Only then can you take sides against their being held in captivity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Richard Krause, everybody. Okay, that is our panel, and now I'm going to see about getting a spotlight to all of our panelists. Okay, do I have everybody? I'm missing one. Who am I missing here? John. Is that it? I got everybody? Great. Excellent. Thank you. Okay. Wow. All right. Wonderful. Really phenomenal reading, everybody. It was really so powerful. Thank you so much for reading such a diverse kind of program tonight. Everybody sharing something really powerful and also pretty different. Birdman 313, let me ask you a question if I could. Would you take a moment to tell us about your relationship with making videos and poetry and putting those together?
Yes, I I started years ago. I had a friend that was actually videoing me, and I asked them would they send me the copies, and they said they didn't know how. So that encouraged me to get my own video camera and to do my own videos. And wherever I travel, I shoot videos. And I've traveled a lot of places. And I have a program on my computer, NCH, and I load it up, I edit it, and I can do different things with the poem, with the video. I can make the poem go in and out or out and in. I can put stars when there's no stars. So that's something that I enjoy doing. I'm working on videos now and going to continue to do it. I just enjoy it.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you. And are you going to put any link in the chat room for us in case somebody wants to see something?
Yes, I already did.
Oh, excellent. Okay, good.
Hey, right quick before you turn me out, that's what my book
I'm
cover
not
look
turning
like.
you off.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what my book,
Perfect. Okay.
and that's Muirwood Forest. So that's why I worked to get it on so I could show you my book cover.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. I wanted to ask you, John, let me know. Okay. Thank you, Spam. Not tonight. Sorry. John, tell me if there's a way you identify or relate to this quote by Annie Dillard. At its best, the sensation of writing is that of any unmerited grace. It is handed to you, but only if you look for it. You search, you break your heart, your back, your brain, and then, and only then, it is handed to you. From the corner of your eye, you see motion. Something is moving through the air and headed your way. What do you think, John?
Very true. In fact, it's kind of funny because I have a very large picture window, a cathedral window right over there. And back there, there's two very large, what I call backyard trees because I don't know what they are. So my backyard trees, there happens to be about a foot long branch hanging down that is all rust and yellowish and it's dead. And it's just swinging back and forth. And I thought that would be an interesting poem to write about. It's hanging there. It's hanging on to life.
Mm,
It doesn't want to go to the ground and drop and be eaten by the squirrels or whatever. It's going to stay there, and there it is. Also, my poetry is something that is just, it arrives. It comes to my head because I look at everything. And I look for what's not there. I look at paintings and wonder what's behind or what's down or what's up or what's over, and I find things in there. And now I'm going to have to write a poem about Muir Woods
mm,
in
mm,
God's perfume, redwood trees.
yeah, yeah.
That's what I just thought of, is the redwood trees in God's perfume. They are the most incredible tree in the world. The smell.
That was awesome to have those trees in the room with us tonight, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing, John.
You're welcome.
And let's see, David, I think, yeah, David, you're next. And here's a quote I want to read to you, David. Tell me if you relate to this or just respond to it in any way you like. Writing is a lot like prayer in that you're in conversation with the universe. Prayer is also listening, not always asking for something. Sometimes it's just saying, thank you. That's the most powerful prayer I know, just to be grateful on a daily basis. Daniel Jose Older. Any thoughts, David?
I think that reflects, in a way, a conversation I've had with other writers and myself for probably 40 years. When I was in a writing program at Boston University, people would talk about where their writing came from and how it was kind of a mystical state for them or a meditative state for them, especially the poets, but some of the fiction writers too. And I always felt like, I don't know, I just kind of work hard at it most of the time. Even when I was writing poetry, it didn't really come to me, and it still doesn't. The beginning idea sometimes comes to me, but then there's this whole middle, which for a nonfiction book like this one or a novel is months or years, that doesn't feel like it's being a gift at all. It's just like slogging away at it. And then at the very end, inspiration comes when I'm sort of polishing things. So the only writer I've read who's really talked about that in that way was Joseph Conrad. And I was relieved to find that a writer is magnificent as he can be and inspiring as he was, worked hard at it. And that's how he looked at it. It was his job, and he didn't believe, well, not that he didn't believe, but it didn't come to him. It's like from a muse or something like that. So
David,
I wish that that's how it was for me, but it isn't.
Thanks for reminding us about the hard work. David, take a minute if you would, and tell us about the way that you crafted the monologue that you read. And was it fiction? Could you tell us a little bit more about the monologue?
Yeah, sure. So all of the stories in here, except for one, well, really two, are based on interviews that I did with people that I met. Morris, as I mentioned, was the newsstand man around the corner for me. And so, I get my paper every day from him. I'd say hi to him at night. At some point, we started talking, and then I asked him if I could come out there and spend time at the newsstand. Many people gathered there. There were probably 15, 20 people that came through there and half a dozen regulars. So at the time, I guess I'd lost my job, and I was deciding I was going to be a writer and be a journalist. And first I asked him if I could take his picture, which people have asked to see his picture. I don't know if I can find it in the book, but it's on the website that I mentioned. And eventually he agreed. And so I spent a week with a tape recorder, or when I didn't have a tape recorder, a notebook, or when I didn't have that, just my memory. I used to be better at remembering almost verbatim what people said than I am now. And then it wasn't a week contiguous, maybe it was a week over the course of a month. And then I had multiple stories that he would tell. He'd be interrupted constantly by people buying papers or by the other people he was talking to. And so in the end, I had a stack probably that thick, maybe 100 pages that I typed out of transcripts and notes and transcripts from my memory of things that he had said. And then I, in Word, laboriously reorganized them by topic and by subtopic and by subtopic. And then I arranged them into a string of narratives. This was actually the story's about 100 pages long, and this is the last piece of it. But it's a thread that went through the whole story. Many hardships he talks about, but he's really, in the end, happy for all the things that I mentioned in that little monologue.
Yeah.
And I felt like it reflected who he was. It was fun to kind of channel him in the reading. So,
Yes, that was really brilliant performance of that or reading of that. So thank you so much, David. I'm going to Miko, move over to you, and I'm going to ask you a question. If you would respond to something that Susan Velarde has been asking in the chat room that I think is a really wonderful question. Would you talk a little bit about whether or not you have a support system for your writing? How do you get support for your writing? Do you need support as part of your writing process? Who are the people who have supported you over the years? Who do you count on? Who do you reach to?
Okay. Multi-layered question. So, um, so yes, I do believe that you do need a support system as a writer. Otherwise, my boyfriend says, you don't need a support system. So everything you write, you just look in the mirror and go, oh, this is great. I'm great. Okay, this is perfect. Yeah, print it. And that's not necessarily true, right? We like to think sometimes like everything we write is golden, but you need someone to workshop, someone that you trust. So I do a lot of workshopping with him, but also at Johns Hopkins, they heavy on workshop, you know? So there's semester classes that are just totally focused on workshopping. But I'm also a part of an artist network in this DMV area. And every now and then we're writing new things and say, hey, what do you think about this? And we get some feedback from them as well. But I used to get it from, this is funny, I used to get it from like my best girl group friends who, you know, they're not writers, they're just my cheerleaders. And so they were like, yes, yeah, Miko, go, yeah. And then I would read it and it would not do as well as it did in the chat. So I think it's important to have a group of like-minded individuals, maybe one or two that you can go to for your most vulnerable pieces and just workshop it and get some feedback. And you can learn that way. Yeah.
What do you love most about the feedback process for yourself?
I did not think that I had such a hard time accepting criticism or feedback. I thought I was just so like, hey, no, I am that cool girl that you see on all of these reels on Instagram. That's me. But I am literally biting my tongue like just waiting. But what I love the most about it is it's coming from a perspective that most times I never even thought of. And it's like the ability to see, this is such an old cliche, and I'm probably going to say it wrong because I suck at cliches, but like the forest from the trees or the trees from the forest, one of those, but it's someone with a different scope that has no stake in this piece other than being able to see something else belongs there, or hey, this is, maybe flush this out. And instead of saying a cliche like the ocean is blue, maybe you can say it felt like the sky was wet, you know, something like that, just something totally different. And so I appreciate that kind of feedback. Are we frozen? Am I frozen?
Can you guys hear me?
Oh,
Yeah.
now we can.
Okay, sorry. My internet's doing funny things tonight. So
You were frozen for a second.
okay. Well, Miko, I heard your answer and it was wonderful. So thank you so much. You covered all those layers that I was hoping. So Brian, Anne Phelan, I believe, I think it's Anne in the chat room asked for you. Do you have a I'm sorry, nope, I already asked that. Do you get inspired by dreams?
You know, I tried to get inspired by dreams early on. When I first started to write, I would, I have a lot of dreams and I would wake up and I'd have to write them down immediately or else I would, you know, forget them by the morning. So I'd keep a little journal next to my bed and feverishly scribble what dream I'm having. I think this probably happens to a lot of people. So then, I would try to write a story around them. But to be honest, Most of the times when I would try to do that, it would just be mush. You know, dreams are like they go here and they go there, but they don't really have a plot or a theme to them. So I get some ideas from dreams, but I have to work at getting a story out of that.
And you have to, yeah. So it's not like the dream just gives you the story. If you get a dream, it might be part of your inspiration, but you have to work at getting the story.
You know, what I get out of a dream a lot of times would be an image.
Okay.
An image, and then I build a story around that. For instance, my book of short stories, A Betrayal and Other Stories. I had this image of somebody walking down a country road, an old country winding country road, like into these forests, and the sky's kind of dark and ominous. And I just had that image, you know, I don't know where the dream went, but didn't go anywhere. But I had that image and I couldn't get it out of my head. So I asked myself, where is this person going? Why is he on this country road? What's happening? And then I just build a story around that. That's typically what I do.
Yeah, it's around that question.
Yeah, but a lot of my stories will start with an image that I can't get out of my head until I write the story.
And the image might come from a dream, maybe, maybe not. So thank you, Brian. Anything else you want to tell us about your writing or your book?
Well, the book, as I think somebody put in the chat, the excerpt that I read was actually all true, and happened to me when I was like 13 or 14 years old. I was misdiagnosed with epilepsy, and I was put on basically psychedelic drugs. This was in the 60s, you know, and I saw these colors dripping down the walls, and I went to my parents and I said, I don't really want to be taking this stuff. And they took me back to the doctor, and I was sent to a hospital, and they plastered electrodes on my head and told me to go to sleep. You know, I'm 13 or 14, that's not going to happen. I remember a nurse coming in with these jigsaw puzzles I was supposed to do, I guess, to make me tired so I'd sleep. And I think I was up the whole night, and then this specialist comes in the next morning, and my parents are there, and he says, the brain scans were fine. There's nothing wrong with this kid. Send him home. So I go home, and I said to my mom, well, so what's wrong? And she said, oh, Brian, you just have a wild imagination. So I guess that's probably when I decided I should become a writer.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Richard, we are going to check in with you, and I would love to ask you how you got started writing fiction. How do you think fiction became it looks like short stories because they're collections of fiction. How did fiction find you?
I just look for contradictions in behavior and will work on those and develop them.
So like, I mean, a particular person, contradictions in their behavior is something you notice and then you develop them?
Have you heard of Hedda Nussbaum?
Yeah, I feel like I've heard her name, and maybe you could tell us all.
A woman living in New York, and she was beaten up by the person she lived with.
Okay.
And I used that for one story, and then worked it into something autobiographical, and both. That was one thing that just jumps to mind.
And so where do you get support for your writing, Richard? Do you get support for your writing? How do you keep going? I mean, you've given a lot of support for your writing. I mean, for writing for others, right? I mean, you taught English in Japan.
Yes.
And writing, I think. So you've given support. How do you get support? Where do you get support?
Fortunately, I had a couple of friends who would read for me, but mostly by simply the sheer number of times I send work away and when it gets accepted, then I feel supported.
Wonderful. This idea of submitting and reaching out, when it's accepted, that feels support. It feels like
Yes.
validation. You've reached an editor or a publisher at least.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's wonderful. Is there anything else you want to tell us about your writing, your books?
No, except that 3 collections of short stories, and then 3 mostly epigrams, collections of epigrams.
Can you give us an epigram to close this conversation with?
Well, I'd have to read it because I don't.
Okay, yes, we're not asking, don't have to do it out of memory.
Some of us write because of the absence of anyone to talk to. Others as a cure for a kind of garrulousness.
Wonderful. Okay, excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much, Richard. And thank you, Richard, Birdman 313, David, John, Miko, Brian, Jen. This is going to close off the portion of our author panel. And I will also thank you all for being here and listening. Now we're going to go to our open mic. And I'm going to actually turn off the recording